don't you just love mobile games? I mean, they lure you in, franchises you know and love. You download them immediately, you're bombarded with microtransactions from the very get-go, and then you're like, fine, okay, I can ignore all that. Let's just play the game itself, and then you start to enjoy it just a tiny little bit, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're out of lives. Now you gotta wait 24 hours in order to actually play the game again. You have to wait a whole day to actually even be able to play the game again. Of course, you can buy some extra lives. I mean, who wants to do that? Forget this crap, man. Just give me the PlayStation. Screw this. Oh, wow. New Frozen game. It's free. I mean, Disney games nowadays have kind of been but I mean, can't be that bad, right? I mean, it's free. It's gotta be better than the phone. Wow, surprisingly, it isn't too bad. I'm actually kind of shocked. This last level's been really, really tough, man. I can get on my next try. I know I can. How lives? I get more lives. You're kidding me. Oh, son of a... Frozen's Freefall Snowball Fight is a new free-to-play game currently available on many home consoles and PC via Steam. It's bringing the whole free-to-play mobile microtransaction-filled games you're used to on your mobile phone and taking them over now to your home console. The game is part of the Freefall series of games, which from Disney includes many of its franchises like Maleficent and other movies that have come out recently, all with the same basic gameplay and of course filled to the absolute brim with microtransactions. Frozen's Freefall Snowball Fight though is the first of these currently available on home console, and it's a dangerous territory to start treading because while we've seen this of course unacceptable on phones, this isn't something that we're used to on home consoles, games filled to the brim with microtransactions to the point that it gets quite annoying pretty quickly. However, for the game itself, it's actually kind of fun. The game is broken up into two different modes, single player and multiplayer, with a bulk of our time being of course spent in the single player mode. In single player, you'll be traveling the world of Frozen level by level, slowly unlocking different characters and seeing increasing level difficulty. You're limited to a certain amount of lives in a day. When there's lives run out, you can either pay for more lives, or you can wait the 24 hours in order to get some back. At the beginning of each day, you'll be given a daily bonus. You'll get a grid of 3x3, and you can click one of the blocks within it in order to get a bonus item. Now, these bonus items may be more lives, or they may be one of the special abilities of the various characters in the game. Now, as far as story progression goes, I'm sure it's nothing special, and I'm sure all the games, especially like Candy Crush, are exactly the same as this, but this is the first time I'm really experiencing it. Basically, you'll start off in a very simple level with sets of columns and different types of blocks. You then have to match 3 of the same kind of block to clear them, and you get points for doing so. You'll start off with levels where you have a certain amount of moves you can make and a certain amount of score you must reach. If you end up failing to do so, you end up losing a life. If you run out of all your lives, this is where you have to wait a day in order to play again or spend that money. However, you'll probably quickly find yourself blasting through the first few levels, being able to chain up 4 or 5 of them in a row, as well as maybe 4 or 5 different sets of combos in a single going. However, what I really like about the game is when it starts to change up that whole thing. I'm sure once again something we see in all these style puzzle games, but you'll have different game boards themselves with them in different patterns. You may have a diamond shape with only one entrant at the top and then it kind of branches off into the different columns, or you'll have only 2 columns set up that are skinny at the top and then they kind of branch off into a big bottom portion of it. So you have to really change up your strategies on how to find those 3, 4, 5 of a kinds and maybe setting up a chain reaction combo. And it can get pretty nerve-wracking, especially when you only have a couple of moves left and you're only a couple of points away, but you're trying to make sure that you complete the level and don't have to use one of those lives. This took a little bit to get used to, and I was enjoying myself. I was still having no problem, I wasn't losing any lives, but then the gameplay started to change up even more so, adding different styles of levels altogether. No longer was I worried about how many moves I had left, I had to worry about what time I had left. Basically, you'll have a timer and it counts down, and if you're unable to get a certain amount of score within that time limit, when you're going completely ballistic trying to make as many combos as possible, then you lose a life. Added a little bit later is item drop levels, where you'll have like a crown or a bag of jewels, and you'll have to have them set up so that when you clear up combos down here, the item will then fall off screen, and you have to get the items off screen, a certain amount of them, in order to complete the stage. You also factor in some levels like where you have ice blocks frozen, you have to match combos to get rid of the ice blocks, or even worse, when you have an ice block with a symbol inside, and the only way to get rid of that ice block is setting up a combo using that specific item. Stuff gets really, really intense, but it's fun because it varies pretty quickly. Very few times was I finding myself doing the same thing for multiple levels, except near the very, very beginning of the game, when it's still trying to ease you into the whole thing. Besides the varying different types of puzzles that you'll be doing, you also have to factor in what character you're currently using. Each of the characters, of course, all from Frozen, and it kind of does a cool job of telling the story of Frozen without telling the story of Frozen. Basically, you'll progress through the levels, starting at 1 and going up to well over 100 levels in the game, but you're getting different characters as you go through. You'll start off with the young characters only unlocked, but quickly you'll start to get to the older characters as you move up through the levels. Each of the characters presents a different special move in their repertoire to help you out. While it in the end doesn't really affect the gameplay all that much, especially when you factor in how limited these special moves end up being, still, it's kind of cool and still something that adds a little bit of fun to the overall gameplay experience. With each of the character's special moves, you accompany that with the other special items that you earn and unlock as well, such as the torch or the ice pick, with them all doing various things, like the ice pick destroying a random block of your choosing, or the torch going through several blocks at a time and getting rid of them as long as they're all connected in one way or another. The big problem with this is, while they are very cool and can be extremely useful, they're extremely limited, because they want to get that money from you. So you get one for free, the first one's free, but unfortunately then after that you are pretty much stuck with just your basic wit and knowledge of trying to figure out all the puzzles. So in the end, they're kind of worthless unless you really want to spend that dough. Graphics, of course, really aren't going to be a big deal in a puzzle game, but the ones here, they're okay. I mean, you have the character models on the side, and I really wish the character models did more animations. I mean, like, celebrate that I'm doing really good on the other side after a big combo, or get really distraught or angry at the fact that I've screwed up or I'm running low on moves, start to go into a panic. And of course, you're not really looking at them anyway, so I may have even missed a few animations, but it seemed like they were just doing the same thing no matter what part of the puzzle I currently was at. The backgrounds that you're seeing through each of the levels are all stagnant, just one kind of screenshot. They might as well just be wallpapers, though they do represent the different areas that you're currently at as far as the levels in the story progression. The only time the character models and animations are actually kind of cool is in the multiplayer mode, which I'll be getting to in just a moment. Now, as far as audio goes, there's not much here. This is a Disney game, and you would expect the Disney music, but it's nowhere to be found. And no, I'm not going to sing it. I'm not going to do it. But the music that is here, that you're going to be hearing the same song over and over and over again, you're going to be happy that you're going to run out of lives pretty quickly, especially on harder levels, just so you can stop listening to that song. Thankfully, in the options, you can turn it and the sound off if you want to, and other than that, there really is no other options to kind of look at. Easily, far and away, the best part of this entire game is the multiplayer mode. It's actually surprisingly fun. It's only 2-player, each character gets to select a character, and then you have a snowball fight where it's the same basic puzzle, but basically you're able to get different combos, and once that combo is built up, you throw a snowball. Your opponent, while also already doing their own combos, will have to make a certain amount of combos in order to dodge. If they're hit, you get a point, and if they dodge, you just keep moving on and trying to build up that next snowball really quickly in order to hit your opponent. Whoever has the most points after a couple of minutes is the winner of the round. It's a best 2 out of 3 rounds. It's nothing too spectacular, but it's actually fun, and I could see for a very quick download that you could have yourself and a buddy pick up this game, play a couple of rounds of it, and probably enjoy it. Negative side of things, though, is all the characters are locked, so you can pretty much only play as 2 characters to start off with unless you want to fork over that money. And I have to say, it really bothers me that the very first character that you're selected on in the multiplayer, which I think was Anna, is a locked character. A character that is locked behind either playing through the story mode quite a while, or of course just flat out buying right away. And this, I get it. It's a microtransaction game, you really, really want my money. But here's the thing, you're not getting it. So why don't we just back off just a tiny bit? I respect what you're doing, but let's sit back and enjoy the game. In the end, with that being said, it's a fun puzzle game. It doesn't take up a ton of space on your hard drive. You can play it for a couple of minutes a day and then move on, which is pretty much the exact same thing you're doing on your phone. So, is it better than the phone versions? Yes, if the multiplayer itself is not included on the phone versions, which I don't think it is in any way. So that alone makes it better than any of the versions you're going to see currently on your phone. However, this is dangerous territory. We haven't really seen a lot of this on the consoles itself, and I have a feeling if this is successful in any way and people put money towards it, we're going to see an increase of this all over PlayStation Network and Xbox Live. So please, people, be cautious as far as putting money towards one of these games. Do you really want to see the PSN and Xbox Live be as flooded as like the Google Play Store? Yeah, I don't think so. In the end, I enjoyed it. I have to admit, in the hour or so I spent playing it, I kind of really enjoyed it, and I actually kind of want to go play some more of it now since it's been 24 hours. I can use a couple more of my extra lives. One thing I would have loved, though, in the game, and it would have been really simple, was just a single-player normal score attack mode. Just like with the Snowball fight that you already have available for the multiplayer, allow me to do just a very simple structured puzzle. It doesn't have to have all the variant types. It's just a very simple puzzle that I can try to get a high score on. Technically, I could do this by going into the story mode and going into the very first level, but it would have been nice to just kind of have maybe a practice mode. Something else a little bit extra, since it is, of course, on the console. So in the end, I'm going to give the game a 5. Yep, a 5, yeah. You can't judge it like a AAA title, and for what it presented, it wasn't too bad. It really wanted my wallet, which is why I'm dashing a bunch of points off the game, just because of how much it hounds you for it. A lot of games are, of course, microtransaction filled, but this one, and I'm sure games like it on the phone, really do it over the top to the point that it just kind of turned me off, and I wanted to stop playing after a bit of it, keep asking me. Like, every choice you could possibly make, if it was the choice that involved going to the PlayStation Store to spend money, that, of course, was the one that's always first selected. So, that's going to wrap up this review of Frozen's Freefall Snowball Fight for the PlayStation 4. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed. I'm still not singing.